weekly Facebook Live and YouTube Live. This week, we are carrying on with our conversation from previous weeks, 4 agreements, moving on to agreement number 2 this week. So if you remember from last week, our first agreement was to be impeccable with your word. So we talked about the idea of how the words that you're saying are often more times a reflection on yourself. So if you're being mean to somebody else, then perhaps you need to take a little bit more time to reconsider the thoughts in your own head. Why did you react negatively to that person? Because chances are, if you're mean or negative to somebody, they're probably not going to be that nice to you. So what were you really hoping to accomplish there? Was there maybe something about them that you recognize as something you don't like about yourself? And that's why you said something critical of somebody else, right? Maybe they just did something wrong and you had to give them feedback. That's possible. But again, just being thoughtful of how your words affect how other people treat you. And then the flip side of that, again, was how the thoughts that you have in your own head affect you as well, right? I mean, we are oftentimes our own worst enemy. All the things we say inside our own head, pretty mean, pretty hurtful sometimes. And oftentimes we don't deserve it. We're a lot more critical of ourselves than we are of others. And so that was the big takeaway from last week. And this one is relatively similar, actually, just an extension kind of the first one. Agreement number 2 is don't take anything personally. And so carrying on from what we were just talking about, that is true. Obviously, the thoughts you have in your own head, a lot of time that dialogue that's going on, you're kind of torn and in between stuff, right? It's very rare that big and important decisions are really clear in your mind as this is exactly what I'm going to do, right? If there's a conversation you have to have with somebody, or if there's a decision you have to make about taking a job or going to a certain school or moving somewhere, those are tough, right? And so you have voices bouncing back and forth in your head and kind of weighing the pros and cons of it. And so it's important to not take anything personally. Even if you're being mean to yourself, then you can just let that go and move on from it, trying not to hold on to criticisms, right? Because it may be valuable as far as a line of thinking that, why would I ever think to take this job for, like, I don't deserve a job like this? Well, you do, right? Like, don't take yourself so seriously. That it's an opportunity, an invitation to sit down and brainstorm all the reasons why you do deserve the job. And once you come up with that list, maybe you feel really confident in accepting it, right? Or you could believe that negative thought you had about I don't deserve the job and just turn it down and play it safe kind of thing, right? But more importantly, I think the bigger majority of the chapter for agreement number 2 talks about don't take anything personally, obviously from words coming from other people. And this is something that I struggled with a lot growing up and even still to this day, right? If a certain person that you look up to or you really admire or respect gives you feedback and has something that you're really not too keen on hearing, that can be tough to digest, right? That can be tough to process. It's really challenging sometimes when somebody says something and then it doesn't feel great for you to hear it. So for example, if you're trying out for a team at school, or maybe you're going out to an after hours adult sports league or something like that, where you're playing volleyball with friends in the evening, like, the 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock games, and you go out with a friend and then they make a comment that you're not doing that well, or you didn't play very well kind of thing. Maybe you don't go back out again, right? Or maybe you don't go back for the next day of tryouts because all of a sudden you're feeling like, that person's right. Like, maybe I'm not that good at volleyball. But if you've never done it before, why did you expect to be so good at volleyball in the first place? Like, you got to show up and put in the time and the effort to get good at it, right? But if you believe that person who said that you're not very good, then you're fulfilling their belief. You're agreeing to accept the comment they made about you, and you make that your reality. You make that your own self-limiting belief. Now you've decided to accept that not being good at volleyball is part of who I am as a person, when really the opposite could be equally as true. If you're willing to have the time and the patience to show up and keep practicing volleyball, maybe at some point in the future you could actually be a really strong volleyball player. Or just take letting go of that comment, not taking anything personally, and continuing to show up and continuing to try because you have a belief, for example, that you're an active individual or that you're a social being and you like being out and socializing with people. And so it's not important to you maybe that you're the best player on the team yet. The important thing is that you're out, you're being active, and you're having fun socializing and interacting with others. Obviously, a lot of us don't enjoy losing. So if you're the one that's always kind of turning the ball over every time, maybe that's a little bit harder. But then you go home and you practice and you come back better next time, right? Sometimes some of our biggest losses, some of our biggest disappointments are the big learning opportunities, because it shows us a really big glaring hole in something that we're passionate about and that we're trying to pursue, and that we need to take more time to focus on and get more competent with, or more skilled in. So even if it's a really big setback, sometimes it's a positive thing. And so I haven't gone on very long because really this one's simple. Like I said, it's just an extension of number 1, being impeccable with your word. We focused a lot on what you were saying to others, how that reflected back on you and how you were speaking to yourself. This one is just a continuation of that, not taking anything seriously, not taking anything personally, that other people say to you or that you're saying to yourself in your own head. So just letting a comment go as a comment. Is it helpful? Is it useful? Does it give me any valuable information that helps me make a better decision going forward? Great. then it was helpful. If it doesn't, then let it go. Because that's, I think, where we get into the biggest trouble. And we've talked about this in the past too. Somebody makes a comment or somebody cuts you off while you're driving to work, and all of a sudden you're still thinking about it hours and hours later, right? So all of a sudden this 1 5-second comment or this 1 2-second of some jerk cutting you off while you're driving has consumed your whole day, right? And we all know that person. We've gone to school with somebody like that or work with somebody that's just always kind of in a bad mood, right? Every day something happens to them that puts them off. How much better could your day be if you're just willing to let that stuff go and move forward with your best foot forward and always trying to see the best in things? And so there we go. It's a rainy Wednesday, short and sweet. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Agreement number 2 is not to take anything personally. And we will see you guys back here next week, same time, same place, 2 o'clock on Wednesday for agreement number 3 of the 4 agreements, where things get a little bit more interesting. We take some steps in different directions. So looking forward to seeing you guys again next week.